Hello and welcome to the Browns Blitz. Today is Tuesday, February 25th, and this is episode number 40. I'm your host, Rod Bloom, and today we are going to essentially pick up where we left off at the end of last week's show. We have returning to continue the discussion on the Browns roster breakdown, Chad Patterson at Chad P71. How's your week going so far, Chad?
Not bad at all. I'm excited. This is my favorite time of year. It's the combine, so I'm excited about that.
Yeah, that's at least there's something happening, some more stuff to talk about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and my brother Jeff is also here. Jeff, how are things going? How are things going for you?
Hey, Rod. Let's just put it this way: better than Tony Grossi.
Yeah. We're going to do the Browns roster breakdown. We may get into a little Tony Grossi later. We'll see.
Let's hope not.
Into a little discussion later. If we don't have anything else to talk about, maybe we'll bring that up. We'll see. So, it's good to be talking to both you guys. Let's just pick it up where we left off. Last week we covered the offense, and we were just talking about whether we think a guy's going to make the team, be on the 53, not be on the 53, or compete for a spot. And I think, we kind of just, I think, more or less came to a consensus on most guys where we thought they were. So we'll just continue that. And we're going to start out with the defense, and then we'll go special teams, and we'll start with the defensive line. And like some other spots, I think there's probably a few guys on the defensive line, well, a couple, 2 or 3 or 4 maybe, who we're pretty sure are going to be here on the 53. So we could probably mark a couple guys off right off the bat. Chad, I'm going to kick it over to you, and why don't you give me the 2 or 3 guys you think are definite guys that we really don't even have to talk about?
I would say Myles Garrett, of course, Larry Ogunjobi, Sheldon Richardson. Those 3 are definitely safe.
Yeah.
I hope I don't pronounce his name wrong. I also think Quali is definitely going to be at least in the training camp for sure.
Yeah, I could see that too. Jeff, what do you think about those, especially the first 3 guys?
Yeah, I think that's a fair assumption. There's just not a lot of established guys in the rotation beyond your starting 4. You're looking at some really young guys. So, hey, let's hope those guys do their job and stay healthy this year.
Yeah, I agree. So let's mark the 3 guys off, and let's talk a little bit about equality then. Chad, you think? He's not making much money. He's got 1 year left on his contract. I think he performed pretty well last year. So he's, why don't you just give us a little bit more information on him and what your thoughts are?
Well, he ended up playing 114 snaps. His overall grade wasn't mind blowing, but there's some things that he did, especially against the Jets when he played a few snaps against the Jets. He also did well against Seattle, and he did well against the Rams. And I think there's enough there, like you said, when you look at his contract and the potential upside for him.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why he'll stick around. He's still relatively young, 6'3", 300 pound, nice big kid for rotation, and I kind of feel like they're going to give him more time to develop.
Yeah, Jeff, you have thoughts on equality?
I honestly don't.
Okay.
I honestly don't remember the guy even playing. and I don't see him listed on depth charts. So, hey, I'll defer to Chad on that one. If you see something there, hey, great. Developmental
he had
guys
an injury. He had an injury later in the year, didn't he, Chad?
Yes, I think so. He only played weeks 1 through 8.
So so maybe he finished on injured reserve.
Yeah, I think he did finish on IR. But yeah, I think he was. I mean, he was in the rotation for the beginning of the season. He was one of the 4 guys they were. I mean, he wasn't starting, but he was in the rotation. And those in the beginning of the season. And I think he, like Chad said, he played pretty well when he was in there.
And usually guys like that, they'll just go ahead and pay an injury settlement and send them on the way if they have no plans of retaining him. And the fact that they've not made any move with him yet, that's what makes me wonder if they're going to give him a little more time to develop. Like I said, just into training camp. I'm not positive he's going to be safe, but I definitely think he's going to make it into training camp.
Yeah, I'm with you there. So where do we want to go next? Let's talk about Chad Thomas. Let's save the other guy for just a minute here. Let's talk about Chad Thomas, who has 2 years left on his contract, and cap hit's just over $1 million. He's only 25 years old. I mean, we saw a bit more of him last year because of Vernon and Miles, not playing, a lot later in the season. Where do you stand on Chad Thomas?
Okay.
Chad,
this one is it's hard to be objective when I'm semi-biased as well. When you look at the rankings. Once again, because this team is going to be analytics driven, it's going to be a huge part. Everything that I look at is usually numbers, analytics. So if you look at PFF, Pro Football Focus, there's 38 players on the defense last year. Chad Thomas ranked 33rd as the 33rd worst player on the team. He's had time to develop. He's not developing. He has more bad games than good. And I honestly think that the Browns will easily be able to upgrade from Chad Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't know that he is committed to the Browns as he needs to be. It's like he is at the beginning of the year, and then it quickly drops off. He's got into fights with fans during training camp. And I just, with this new attitude and culture that they're trying to build in Cleveland, my personal opinion is I don't see him as a fit. I just think they can upgrade the position.
Jeff.
I think Chad Thomas had some flashes toward the end of the season last year, but I think probably being a Dorsey pick is going to work against him with the new regime. Production-wise, he's probably not head and shoulders above guys that are making half as much money. And Porter Gustin and who's the other guy? Brian Cox. Essentially backup defensive ends. I think a lot of this really depends on what happens with the guy we haven't talked about yet.
We'll cover him next, just to get him out of
whether
the
you give Chad Thomas another year or not. Yeah, no, just and really that's I think that's what it boils down to is if the Browns move on from Olivier Vernon, maybe Chad Thomas sticks around for another season.
Yeah, depending on what they're able to bring in and what other spots they
and that's really the challenge with Vernon,
everything.
Right? The challenge with Vernon is how do you replace him with somebody better? He's making a lot of money. They have the cap space this year to ride him. He's injury prone, but what's out there that you can go get in an established pass rushing defensive end that is going to outperform what you already know you're going to get from Olivier Vernon.
Yeah, so let me give my take on Chad Thomas, and then we'll get into the Vernon discussion. I thought that I was kind of surprised that Chad Thomas got as much of a shot as he did last year, but I think that it was just because it was kind of out of need. But if I had to put some money down on this, which is kind of what we're doing on this show, is trying to figure out and say who we think's going to be on the 53 and who's not. I would guess that he's not going to be on the 53. That's just my thought. Regardless of what happens other places, I would bet against Chad Thomas being on the 53. That's my thought. So let's talk Olivier Vernon, because really the defensive line is going to kind of, changes, and what it's going to look like next season is going to depend a lot on Vernon and what they decide to do with him. So he's got 1 year left on his contract, $15.5 million. The Browns can cut him, I guess we're trading him without taking a hit, I believe.
Right.
At this point. So,
yeah.
So he could do that. He's, got just some of my thoughts. I mean, he's 30 years old. He's had a hard time staying healthy, but he's also coming up on a contract season. I hear people talk about, it's a contract season. You don't want to let a guy go on a contract season. It's $15 million. What can they get for $15 million? Not only at defensive end, but at other positions. Then there's also the idea of, are the Browns going to spend all this money? If they don't keep him, are they going to spend that $15 million on somebody else? They've already got a lot of cap space. So I'll let you guys kick it off with what you think is actually going to happen now. So Chad, what do you think is going to happen with Vernon?
I think they're going to move on from $15 million, and Jeff brought it up, Porter Gustafson, and here's why. The young man didn't even start till week 12 for the Browns. Played 225 snaps, and he's ranked 10th overall with the defensive unit. That's impressive. I mean, he didn't have training camp or any time to prepare. He was basically thrown in and performed really well. So if you can even get 75% of the production from Gustin that you get from Vernon, and then still pick up $15 million in cap space to spend on other players that we need, because while the team overall is fairly sound, there's still holes that need to be fixed, and especially at offensive tackle, that's going to cost a lot of money when you have two tackles on the roster. So that $15 million gives them a lot of room to play, where even a player like Gustin can come in and fill that role, while you also can go and get a rookie that to develop into that position. So a lot of reports are saying that they're going to move on from him, and I kind of agree with that.
You gave his snap count, Gustin's. Could you give
Yes.
that again? And do you have his sacks, hurries, and hits also?
Yep. Okay, so he, like I said, he didn't start till week 12. He played 225 snaps. His overall grade was 65.6, which that's good. He has 1 sack, 2 hits, 4 hurries, 8 tackles, 2 assisted tackles, and 5 stops. See, that's not bad numbers for a guy who didn't get to spend much time with the team and was basically rushed into play. I personally believe that that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and the hope here is that this is the guy that you're going to have starting opposite of Miles. So you want somebody over there who's good, that teams can't forget about. It doesn't have to be somebody that's going to pile up huge numbers. You want somebody over there so that the other team can't double and triple team Miles the whole game long. That's
correct.
My thought. Right.
Yeah, and Sheldon Richardson also took snaps at defensive end and loved it. So you still have that you can play with as well.
Right. So, Jeff, you're up on Olivier Vernon. What do you think is going to happen?
I think it's going to be interesting to see what does happen with Vernon, because I think it will send a pretty clear message about what direction this team is headed next season. If you're trying to win now, and you believe you've got the pieces in place to win now, I think you keep Vernon for another year. I agree, Chad. I mean, there's a lot of money tied up in the defensive line. $43 million is, by far the most of any group that the Browns have committed in salary. And it's easy to say, hey, 15.5, drops to the bottom line by moving on from this guy who, may only play a handful of games for us. But when you look at what is left, after, well, we've said we're probably moving on from Chad Thomas. If we move on from Olivier Vernon, now we're looking at Myles Garrett and Porter Gustin as our starting ends, and Brian Cox as our rotational backup, and maybe a developmental draft pick. Okay, well, that's pretty thin at defensive end to my liking if you're trying to win now. The other consideration on the money side is, we've got Garrett in his extension year. So we're going to be spending some of that Olivier Vernon money on him next year. And if we run Vernon out to the end of his contract, there's still the possibility of a compensatory pick going next year. So we're getting something back for him. So when you factor all that in from an analytics perspective, it may be more than just the 15.5 and what could they go spend it on.
Yeah, 15.5 is, I think most teams would see that as a big number. Do you guys think I think the reality is if they don't keep him, it's probably a cut. Do you guys think there's any possibility of being able to trade him?
Not with that kind of money, I don't.
Yeah.
See, and then after 6-1, they lose that 15.5. So once they pass that, they're keeping him. And that's why it's going to be, they got a lot to think about there.
Yeah.
I've heard some talk of them potentially trying to rework his deal, get him to come back for less. Again, it all kind of boils down to what else is available out there on the market, and where do they think they can leverage that money if they move on. And I just think if you go into camp with Myles Garrett and a bunch of young guys, you're kind of sending the message that, hey, maybe this isn't our year. So if we want to win now, we probably play this guy out.
That's pretty logical.
Hey, you guys both make great cases. So, yeah, I mean, I really don't know what to say at this point. I mean, I think my thought just kind of deep down the whole time has been that they would probably cut him just to free up the money. But I could see him making the decision to keep him. For, it's kind of funny to say depth, but just because of lack of depth behind him, and so that they would get a compensatory pick next season and things like that. But it depends on what kind of money they're looking at spending in free agency on other positions and things like that. If they're looking at going seriously after some other guys, then they may choose to cut him just to free up that cash. That's we really don't know what to expect out of Andrew Berry and how much spending he's planning to do in free agency.
I think the wild card on that is, the right tackle position. If they end up drafting a left tackle and they can go out and get a guy in free agency to play right tackle, they may want that Olivier Vernon money.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree.
Yeah, but then you listen to Joe Wood say that the most important positions to him are edge rushers and cornerbacks. So
Yeah. So I guess we got a couple more. Let's see,
Okay.
2 or 3 guys left on the defensive line. Chad, I'll let you just give your thoughts on these guys and how likely it is you think they'll return. Eli and Cal.
yeah, I don't think he will. The only guy, and once again, this is just because last year I went to the joint Colts Browns practice. Bryant, if you guys get within 15 feet of the man, it's like wow. And while he rotated in second string during the practice, he was dominating the second string. He didn't get a lot of playing time this year, and once again, this is just my personal opinion. I have no idea how the team feels about it. I see the potential for him to be able to do well with this team. So I'm going to say I like him. The rest of the guys, I think it's really going to come down to what they do in free agency for the rest of the guys.
Yeah, talking Justin Zimmer and Robert McCray's an RFA.
Yeah, Zimmer actually did not play very well with the few snaps that he got, was given. So that's why I think these bottom tier guys that are Dorsey's picks or Dorsey's additions are they're just gonna not have any weight. Where Barry's gonna want to bring in his guys on the bottom that may be able to produce more.
Yeah, that makes sense. Any thoughts on those guys, Jeff? Or are you ready to move on to the linebacker?
I would just say that Ankow is a younger and probably stronger version of Sheldon Richardson. He's been in the league for a little while. He's not a rookie. So you're looking for that stout rotational guy on the inside. If it's him or if it's somebody like him, you need somebody in that spot. Otherwise, you could throw all these guys in a hat and probably pull 1 or 2 of them out that makes it through camp next year, along with whoever else they bring in.
Yeah, I would think the same thing. A couple of them are going to get a shot to come back and compete, but a lot of them are going to get cut loose, I would think. So, or several of them. So let's move on to linebackers, and let's talk about Joe Schobert first, who is an unrestricted free agent. What are the chances he's going to be back in Cleveland? Chad,
once again, I think the Browns do themselves a favor by bringing him back if the numbers are not ridiculous, which I don't think they will be. Joe wants to be here. He's highly intelligent. He's able to help everybody on the defense learn a new system because it's constant. My only question will Woods have him play Mike or Will? Because I think Mac Wilson's eventually going to move into the Mike position. Schobert will move back to the Will position, weak side linebacker. And I think that would be a good fit, and then it leaves the Sam linebacker open for them that they'll need to address. So I think they're going to come together, get agreement. It might be a 1-year deal just to see how he fits with the new defense, but I do believe that he's going to come back.
Jeff, what do you think?
Well, I think Schobert's going to get probably $10 to $12 million a year. So again, it's a question of, are we talking about winning now and being willing to spend that kind of money when we have younger guys that are significantly less expensive. I would love to see Schobert come back. I think we always tend to devalue the guys we have and overvalue the guys that are on other teams. So in the market, Schobert's probably looked at as a very attractive UFA that a lot of teams would love to have. We think about him as being not the greatest tackler in the world at times, He gets a lot of respect for his ability to call the game plan on the defensive side. So I think really tough to replace, really tough to go out and replace his skill level on this team next year if we're trying to win.
I agree. I mean, I hope he's back. Maybe down the road they can find somebody who they think is going to be better than Joe, but overall Joe plays pretty darn well. He's been, pretty darn consistent for the Browns, whether defense has been good or bad. I know he's not a perfect player, but he does a lot of things very well. And if you look at the linebacking core and what there is there, if you let Joe go and depending on what happens with Kirksey, you're going to be starting a lot of awfully young guys because the linebackers traditionally a pretty tough spot to fill in free agency. And, I really don't know. It probably wouldn't be based on the Browns' needs. It probably wouldn't be the first thing that they would be looking for in the draft either. So I think it's pretty important that they bring him back. So if I had to bet, I would hope and bet that he's back. So let's talk about Kirksey next, who the Browns can save a bit of money by letting go. They can save. I know this what we're looking at says his cap hit's like $10 million. I think they can save like $7 or $8 million by cutting him. Is my understanding. Maybe I'm off on that a little bit, but what do you guys think? Chad, do you think Kirksey's going to be back at this point?
From what I'm hearing is that it's going to come down to will he renegotiate his contract. I believe the team wants him to finish his career in Cleveland. He is as much a part of this program as any player. He's been through all the changes. He's 100% in, and you need that veteran presence there. I think he is. While his contribution on the field may not be what it used to be, in the locker room, off the field, helping these young kids, I just think that's worth the money if he can renegotiate the contract, and hopefully he will want to do that and just finish his career in Cleveland. So trying not to be too biased with this, but I think it would be a smart move for the Browns to try to do their best to keep him for that reason.
Okay, Jeff, what do you think?
There's a little bit at play here, I think, in terms of filling out the linebacking core. I like Christian Kirksey. I think he's had tough luck the last couple of years. I'd love to see him come back, but I honestly think his money would be better spent re-signing Schobert. There's been some talk, I don't know how serious it is, about the Browns targeting Isaiah Simmons in the draft as opposed to taking the left tackle in the first round if he drops. The other question is bringing Joe Woods in, are we going to a true 4-3 again, or are we going to continue with the hybrid 4-2-5 defense, and where are all these pieces going to fit? Kirksey's a nice player. He's a nice guy. I like having him on the team. I just think he's expendable at this point, and you've got some young guys that can step in. Unless we're playing a true 4-3 where we're going to need that extra outside linebacker, I think that maybe justifies bringing him back.
Yeah, I think you almost have to have either Schobert or Kirksey back. I think it'd be kind of scary if both of those guys are gone. So I can see your point, Jeff, of spending the Kirksey money on Schobert. But I think ideally, if you can bring them both back for a season, it would be great, because you got those guys in Mac Wilson and you got some other guys growing around them. I know Chad is chomping at the bit because you brought up Isaiah Simmons. I think the chances of Isaiah Simmons being there at 10 are about 0. And Chad is following the draft a lot closer than I am. I think it would require a trade up probably to the top 4 or 5 to get Simmons, and I don't see that happening. I think the Browns are going to, more than likely stay at 10 or go down versus going up to get Simmons. If he's there at 10 by some miracle, I think the Browns would take him. Let's just say that.
I'll just hit on this real quick because I don't want to take too much time. I think there's a really good chance that he does make it to 10, and here's why. I think quarterbacks are going to end up going 1, 2, 3 in this draft. I think New York at that point in time they want to trade. Dave Gettleman came out today and was like, "Look, I'm ready to trade the number 4 pick." Blah blah blah. That's fine until he's looking at Chase Young, which there's a lot of reports coming out of Washington that they definitely want to move the number 2 pick, which will go to the Dolphins, who will trade up to take Tua. And then the Lions are looking to move back because they're going to stay with Stanford. They need players. So then that's where Herbert's going to go, which team I don't know. And then you got Young going to the Giants, which would put the Redskins in at 5. I don't think the Redskins will take him. And then you're going to have another quarterback. And from the way it sounds now, the Panthers want to move, and the Cardinals and Jags are both going to take offensive tackles. Is what's coming out now that people have started talking during the combine. So I think it's a really good chance he's going to slide to
10.
That's what I've been hearing.
Okay. Well,
and it's a dilemma because you really need a left tackle. But Simmons could be that generational player. It's interesting. Again, we had, and I don't know if it's fair to put them together, but Peppers played a sort of a similar role to what I've heard Simmons playing for the Browns, and I just don't know how that scheme works in the grand scheme of things. No pun intended. But it will be interesting to see which way they decide to go if they're faced with that decision.
Yeah.
Because I tell you right now, if you look at our linebacker group, the way I see it shaking out right now is Will. Then moves to Mike. Harvey will move up during Will, and then you got Taki second string Mike, and Tay Davis as second string Sam. The Browns do not have a Sam linebacker, and they have to address that position. So who are you going to find in free agency that's going to be a better prospect than Simmons if he said? Because I don't think they're going to address it right away.
Probably not. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Unless something crazy happens and Joe Woods goes to a 3-4 defense.
I think he's said pretty adamantly that that's not going to happen here.
Yeah, he's going to play with the personnel, yeah.
Just based on the personnel that he has. But yeah, there's all kind of question marks at the linebacker position and at the safety position that Simmons can address multiple needs.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and what was really interesting was Andrew Berry talking today about how he wants to use his high-value picks for high-impact players. And
right.
That really stuck to me because I'm thinking, I don't know that you view an offensive tackle as a high-impact player.
Well, yeah. I mean, a left tackle is a pretty high-value player, I think, for most people. Because they're just so hard to find and keep long term. But I don't know, it's apples and oranges. Simmons can really probably take our defense to the next level as well.
Yeah, I guess we're still talking linebacker, so we're not really way off off target
Right.
here, off topic. But yeah, I don't know, guys. I think if Isaiah Simmons makes it to 10, I think I think the Browns would take him. I think they would. That's my thought. Um, so we have a few more linebackers. We've talked about Schobert and Kirksey. Mac Wilson's going to be back, guys.
Right.
You guys both think Taki's going to be back?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Just because he's versatile enough. He played well on special teams. The kid is one of the hardest working kids there are on the team, and he's not going to quit. And I think they're going to love that fire in him. He doesn't do anything to not be a part of this program.
Right. And you brought up Willie Harvey.
Yes.
He was on the practice squad most of last year, and then he was elevated, and then he got hurt right away. Is that right?
Yes,
I'm remembering it, because I mean he's a guy with. I'm trying to remember. To me he looked pretty impressive. Just what I had seen of him from watching some film when the Browns signed him, and that. So I thought he was a guy with a future. So what are your thoughts on him, Chad?
So most of the scouting department that helped bring him to the team. So I know for a fact that the defensive unit of coaches really liked him, saw his potential. Once again, I also really like him. So I try not to, let that cloud my decision on this or opinion on this. But the scouting staff that brought him to the team is still part of the Browns. So he has people that are talking positively about him to the new group. So, and I know the young man's hungry. He wants it. He's going to work his butt off. And I think that he is going to earn a spot on this team as somebody who can develop into a key player. And they need him because they don't have the depth.
Yeah. And Jeff, I'm going to kick it over to you for Brian Cox, because he's an unrestricted free agent. And I know you like him as a backup. He's listed as a linebacker, plays some defensive end and that. So
he's an edge rusher, basically.
Yeah, edge. So I don't know. He got some exposure last season. He has, he's got the family pedigree. So what do you think chances are the Browns really make a move to bring him back, or are able to at this point?
Just so many moving pieces here. With the need at edge and all these guys in motion at linebacker, it's just really hard to say how the bottom few guys are going to settle out. I think the release of Adarius Taylor told us something about how they plan to fill out special teams with these guys. So, Taki, Tay Davis, they're going to need to contribute on special teams to earn their spot. Whereas Brian Cox, I think, he's probably going to be more of a rotational player at edge because of the need there. So they're probably looking at different qualifiers for making the team with these last 3 or 4 linebackers.
Yeah, I mean, I think the way we're talking about these guys, we kind of expect them all to have a shot at making the team. What do you think, Chad? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think they've got some young guys that are worth taking the time to try to develop. You're going to have room on the 90-man. So why not continue to at least look at these guys? And you'll see if guys come into the extra week of training camp. While it won't be padded, that's where those guys are going to come in, and then after that first week of April, then you might see some guys move if the coaches don't feel they fit. But I think they have a young group that could develop into really key players for this team. I like other than Taylor, I liked our linebacker group last year. I thought we needed a really good Sam linebacker, and Taylor wasn't it. So I think you add that Sam linebacker, and I think we have a great linebacking crew.
Yeah, I agree. You guys ready to move on to cornerback?
Yep.
All right. Again, we have some guys who are going to be around. I think Denzel Ward and Greedy Williams. I don't think we expect either one of those guys to go anywhere. So let's talk about some other guys. I think let's talk about Terrence Mitchell. I think he's probably a question mark because he's got. To me, it's still not a big contract, guys. He's $3.67 million. You're like, oh, that's nothing for somebody who can play corner in this league. It's really nothing. And when he's been in there, I think he's played pretty darn well. I was surprised he didn't play more than what he did last season. So he's got 1 year left on his contract. So any chance he's going anywhere?
I can't be objective on this because I'm a huge Money Mitch fan. So it's not possible. He should have been playing ahead of Greedy Williams. Yeah. Williams wasn't ready. Love the kid. He's got a lot of spark, and I think he could develop into a strong cornerback. But they rushed him in because of where he was picked at, and it was Dorsey's pick. But Money Mitchell is a better cornerback right now.
I agree.
This team would be insane to let him go. He's too valuable. So, like I said, I can't be objective on this because I'm such a fan, and I believe that he is so needed on this football team.
Yeah, I agree. Jeff, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think, cornerback in today's NFL, you can never have too many good ones. And you saw early in the season, I think when Ward and Williams were hurt, Mitchell is a great press cornerback. I think he's more physical at the line of scrimmage, better tackler than our starters. And we're extremely thin with nickel backs right now. So I don't know how you would not bring him back with the release of TJ Carey. Unless out of somewhere unexpected, a guy surfaces in camp that they just absolutely fall in love with. I think he's back.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't see how he's not on the team next season. I think you got to have him, and I think he should play a lot next season. So. It's funny. It seems like the Browns always have this huge supply of cornerbacks, and they've got those three guys, and they've only got two other corners on the roster, Tavere Thomas and Robert Jackson.
Well, you got to remember they also have Lewis too.
Donnie Lewis.
Yeah, because he was injured.
Okay, yeah. So, Chad, why don't you break those three guys down for
us? Okay. The other player that you can add, Justin Burris, who is a free agent. He can play corner. He can play nickel. He can play strong safety. He can play safety. I hope that they bring him back. That young man gave 120% every play he was on the field. He's making peanuts. I really hope they bring him back. Sorry, I just wanted to throw him in there real quick.
That's right. Yeah, he's listed as the safety of what I'm looking at. I think that's because, the Browns really have one safety or two safeties right now. They wanted to make the list look bigger.
Right. But he could. But that's what's so great about it. He's so versatile, can play everywhere. But Now, as far with the other guys, Javier Thomas. There's no way I would let him go. That kid is fast as lightning. They even used him on punt returns for a few times. I believe it was. And he's great on special teams. He's not afraid to tackle. Like I said, and he's fast as lightning. There's no reason why he shouldn't make the team. Robert Jackson, just another good player, solid special teams guy, can fill in. Lewis is the one. I don't know what he's going to turn into. I know he kind of got into that little bit of that Twitter thing that I'm not going to talk about, and I'm not sure how that will play out, and maybe they'll just keep him through training camp to see if he can develop into a player.
Mm-hmm. So, Jeff, what do you think about those three guys?
I really don't have anything to add to that. Again, I think we need as much depth as possible at cornerback. And, if these are the guys, great. If they pick up a couple new guys, and they give us better depth, so much the better.
Yeah, I think Thomas has an edge just because of special teams, which we'll talk a little bit, about later. But yeah, the speed and being able to, be a return man, that definitely helps him. So, with saying that, let's move on to safeties. The very short list. I don't know if we expect these free agents to be back. I mean, Morgan Burnett's done with the injury. You mentioned Justin Burris already, and Demarius Randall. He's going to get big money somewhere, isn't he? Don't you think?
Yeah. Yes.
I find it interesting that nobody's really asked the front office guys. All these interviews, nobody's asked, what do you guys think of Randall? And I'm surprised because I know for a fact that he wants to be on this football team. He has no desire to go anywhere. But it's like they're just writing him off, and I don't understand it. So I don't think he's going to be back.
I mean, he's a good player. I mean, he's a good player. Yeah. I'd like to see him back if they could, make the right deal work. But yeah, I mean, most safeties when they hit this point in their career, they cash in for a pretty good sized deal.
Right. The market right now is $10 million.
Yeah.
And he's worth it. I mean, why do we have to bring in a new guy to relearn everything when he's been with the team and he's given 100% and he wants to be here? That's the one player I do not understand it.
Well, I don't disagree with you. I think if they could get him for $10 million, I think you probably make that deal. My concern is, I don't know how many teams they would be bidding against for his services. So, I don't know how. I don't know if $10 million would do it.
I think the other consideration is it's going to have to be multi-year. So you have to think about where they're going to be a year or two down the road versus the cap to have that much tied up in a safety. So I just think from what I've seen that they're reluctant to commit those kind of dollars. I think there's a better chance of them bringing Eric Murray back.
A little bit of a difference in player there, though, too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Quite a difference. So, I mean, they really don't have much at safety. You got Redwine who got to play, but I think we probably agree he's got a little ways to go.
Yeah, he's got a long ways to go, and if they're going to count on Redwine to be the starting free safety, God bless him.
Yeah, he kind of needs at least another season of tutelage, I would say.
And then hopefully JT Hassel gets to come back. I don't see why he wouldn't. Kid's a baller, 110%er. Loves the game, does everything he's asked. I just can't see a reason why they would not bring the young man back.
Yeah, so let's go down these names then. Justin Burris, is he going to be back?
I hope so, but I think it's going to come down to will he sign for what they're willing to pay.
Jeff, Justin Burris.
I'm going to say yes.
Okay, I would say yes on Justin Burris. Demarius Randall.
No, I think they're going to let him go.
Agree. I say no.
Yeah, I'm going to say no. Eric Murray.
No, I don't think so.
Jeff?
I think he'll be back.
I'm going to say no on Eric Murray. Red Wine.
Yeah, he's already been named multiple times as being part of the young core.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff, you in on Red Wine?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Jan's jersey is still good.
My wife has his jersey.
Along with a lot of other women in Cleveland. Yeah.
Women wine drinkers.
Yeah. JT Hassel. JT Hassel.
I really hope so. Can't see a reason why they wouldn't.
Yeah, he'll be back. They need to develop more guys at the safety position.
Yeah, I'd say yes. I mean, there's always a chance they bring in a bunch of guys to compete at safety, but yeah, I think he'll be back. So let's move on to special teams to wrap this baby up. This shouldn't take too long, guys. Charlie Huglet, is he going to be back as our long snapper? Long snapper, is he going to be back?
Yes, he's actually one of the best in the NFL. So
I agree.
No reason to move on from him.
I agree. That's one spot you just leave alone.
It's hard to believe, guys. I remember how long a contract did he sign? Like a 6 or 7 year contract. I'm looking now, and he's only got 3 years left.
Yeah, the funny
part to get worried about this.
At one time, he was the highest paid long snapper in the NFL too.
Right.
Yeah. So he signed for 3 more years. He's 30 years old, and he's going to be around. Austin Seibert, any chance that he's not our kicker next season?
No. Prefer has spoke very highly of him. And the way he spoke about him was almost like that dad speak, where it's like, I'm really proud of my son, but he needs to do better, kind of. And I think he sees him as a project that he can fix. I may be wrong, but that's how I view it.
Jeff, Austin Seibert.
Yeah, he's got to get better on extra points. I think all in all, he's a pretty solid young guy. They're taking on a lot of projects already. I think they need to leave the kickers alone this year and just let them develop.
Okay, so I have to ask, Jamie Gillen, is there any chance the Scottish Hammer is not the kicker for the Browns and mutiny reigns in Cleveland as the fans revolt?
I honestly think they're going to bring in competition for him, and he better be ready to go.
I think the Hammer will be ready.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's no doubt that there's no reason why he should lose his job. But if they bring in competition like a Vogler, is that how he said it? I'm gonna tell you what he gave Colquitt a scare at training camp, and I could see some kind of competition like that, and Colquitt finally just stepped up to where it's he won the job that year. I would kind of see something similar to that this year.
It's interesting going into the season last year with 2 rookie kickers scared the crap out of just about everybody. But it turned out to be probably the most solid group of guys on the team. They had their learning experiences, obviously, but you just didn't worry about them from week to week. And what else can you ask for from your kickers?
Right.
Yeah, they're definitely bright spots for the Browns. And yeah, I mean, I'm I'm looking forward to watching Jamie Gillen kick again this coming season. I mean, just watching him punish the ball, and thing is, he's just going to get better, and not only on the distance, but the accuracy and probably on his tackling too. It's just fun watching. It's just fun watching him, guys. So
I'm saying, listen, going to training camp last year and hearing him kick that football, I honest to God, I laughed every time he kicked the football because it sounded like a bomb, and it was so funny.
Well, let's hope that our offense scores a lot more points this year, so we're not nearly as dependent on our punter.
Right.
Well, that's true. Yeah, hopefully he won't have to kick as often. So, Chad, you wanted to talk about a few guys who have a good shot to make the 53, kind of based on their special teams contributions. So you want to bring up some of those guys. So we've kind of talked about them a little bit already, but guys you think will have the a better shot at making the team because of special teams.
Yeah, and I think it's my top guy is Dearness Johnson. I think that's how he's going to win the job over Hilliard. Is going to be because of his special teams play. JT Hassel, Damon Ratley, Kadero Hodge, and one of the guys that I've really started to take a lot of big interest in is Tay Davis, the linebacker. I really like that young man. He's versatile. I think he's going to make it back. I hope that they're going to invest time in developing him, because I think he could be a big player for this team in multiple positions. So I think if they needed him to slide a little bit back into strong safety, he could. He can play some linebacker and then be a key piece on the special teams unit as well.
Nice. Jeff, any additional thoughts on special teams players or anything else you want to add about the roster?
Yeah, just real quick. Dontrell Hilliard is listed as first team both kick return and punt return right now on the depth chart. And I think last week said he's probably not going to make the team in favor of Dearness Johnson. So that leaves a little bit of question mark in terms of who those returners are going to be. I'm just going to say I hope to God we don't have to watch Jarvis Landry returning punts this year.
Oh, yeah, I'm with you. We need some other guys who can do that. And I think there's guys on the team now, but I think they'll hopefully bring in some guys who can do that.
I'm sorry, didn't mean to interrupt, but if the CBA gets put into place, they add to the rosters, I wonder if the Browns won't look for a specialist returner, then that's all he does.
And I can't remember his whole name, Giuseppe from from training camp last year.
Yes.
A guy like that, or maybe him. Could see that happening.
Right.
Well, guys, I really thought we were going to get through the defense faster than the offense. Turned out not to happen, but we've got it covered in an hour. It's been a lot of fun. I think there's more unique positions to talk about and kind of some special circumstances here. So it was definitely a lot of fun talking about. So I'm gonna give you guys each a chance for for a couple closing remarks, and then we're gonna get on out of here. So Chad, what would you like to leave the listeners with?
I was really impressed with the press conferences today. I like the confidence of Andrew Berry. I know some people are kind of hesitant. They keep bringing up that whole 1-31 stuff. I think he's a smart young man that's going to use all the resources around him, and I'm excited for him. So I'm a fan of his. I have been since he came to the team. I'm hopeful now, and I think he's going to do well.
Great. Jeff.
Yeah, I agree with that. I saw a little bit of his appearance on the Today Show this morning. I think he's very well spoken. The pedigree's there. You know, I just hope that he gets an opportunity, to stick with the team for a while. He seems to have all the makings of a high quality executive. I think it'd be interesting now that we've gone through this exercise of identifying who we think will be on the team, to go back in future conversations and look at where we see now the biggest areas of need and who we think will be able to fill those.
I agree. That should be a direction we head in the coming weeks.
Right.
As it happens for the Browns. So we will definitely do that. So thanks so much, guys. Thanks to Chad Patterson. You can follow him on Twitter at ChadP71. You can follow me at CleeRodB. And this has been the Browns Blitz. And we thank you for listening. And we will catch you next time.